experience, personal and professional insight as well. So I'll just give a quick rundown on what our conversation today encompasses. And of course, our experts are the ones with all the cards for today's conversation. But just to ease us into today's event, let's quickly talk about the fast changing world that we live in today, where economic shifts and geopolitical events, even emerging technologies, refine how brands engage with their audiences. PR professionals must go beyond just the storytelling of PR. They have to anticipate, adapt, and even strategize to overcome certain eventualities that might come their way. With that, I would like to welcome everyone to the 28th edition of the Evaluate PR, hosted by yours truly, P Plus Measurement Services. Um, Today, we hope to explore how global affairs and market trends will shape the future of PR, helping brands stay ahead, navigate challenges, and turn insights into favorable impacts. I am Wadi Alostani, and I'll be moderating today's event. So quickly, I would just like to give a brief summary of the guests and their journey so far, and later on I'll have them also give us a brief summary of their career journey. So first off, we have Olaotan Fawehinmi. He's a seasoned marketing communications professional with expertise in brand strategy, data-driven storytelling, and high-impact campaigns. He has led initiatives for top brands such as ASUS, Konga, even Stanbic IBTC Bank, delivering measurable results. Olaotan is also passionate about thought leadership and innovation. He stays ahead of digital trends while also mentoring next generation through training and speaking engagements. Secondly, we have Maya Koleva. I hope I'm doing justice to that. She's also a media measurement and evaluation expert with over a decade of expertise. She's currently the Director of Research and Insights at Commetric, where she leads research methodologies and insights development. She previously worked as a policy research analyst at Central European University. She's currently a board member of AMEC, which is an international body that oversees media intelligence as a whole. But lastly on that list, but definitely not the least, we have Kenneth, who's also a seasoned PR and strategic marketing communications expert with expertise in corporate communications, reputation management, and media relations. He's currently the head of corporate communications at the Nosak Group. He drives CSR marketing as well as internal engagements within the Nosak Group. He has a background in journalism, and he has led campaigns for top brands such as 7-Up, Pepsi, P&G as well, to name a few. So at this juncture, I would like to hear from our guests. First off, we'll have Olaotan. Just a brief rundown on your career journey so far, from where it all started up until this moment. Just quickly take us through that journey.
Thank you very much, Stanley. I hope you can hear me. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here, and I welcome everyone. It's also very, very, I mean, when I saw the other speakers, I'm like, okay, what do I have to say? So it's a great honor to be lined up with such an amazing line of speakers. It's amazing to be here. Thank you very much. Just quickly, like you know, my name is Olaotan Fawehinmi. I breathe PR and communications, and my journey to that has been very unconventional, beg your pardon, because I studied construction. Actually, I studied quantity surveying in school, but I see Kenneth smiling. And you know, coming out of school, I knew that no, construction wasn't my thing, because I have very funny skills, very amazing skill sets. Writing, speaking, and designing. I love to create. I love to make people say, wow, when they see what I've done. So I knew that I wasn't built for construction at all. So leaving school, I plunged straight into it and started out as a copywriter. And in 7 months, I moved 2 steps, became content production manager. That's at Conga. And of course, it was becoming clearer that I was doing the right thing because everything was just going well for me. I am passionate about storytelling, brand positioning, strategic messaging, anything that makes a brand look good in the sight of their audiences. That's where you find me. I've worked on global brands like ASOS, Jamieson, MasterCard Foundation, Stanbic IBTC, Conga, and a host of others. So that's it. Right now, I handle PR and communications for the energy storage division at Transsion Holdings. Transsion Holdings are the maker of Techno, Infinix, ITEL, Cinix, Philip, Calcare, and so many other brands like that. But I handle the energy storage division. So yeah, that's it, pretty much.
Thank you very much, Olaotan, for taking us through that. That's an extensive curriculum vitae, if I might say. And I think I know why Kenneth was laughing earlier. So at this juncture, I will give him the floor to also give us his career journey as well.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, Stanley, you're not nice. All right, it's a pleasure to meet with everyone. I'd like to Fawehinmi and Maya. A pleasure to be in this 28th edition of Evaluate PRO, which is happening on the 28th day of the month of March. Sorry to digress. The last edition, the 7th. I was also privileged to be in the panelists on the 27th of February, and it was 27th edition 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like it's not a coincidence, it's deliberate. PRO measurement fixes this significantly on such days. So running down, okay, let me start. Why I was smiling while Olaotan was speaking is like we have a number of similarities, kind of unconventional, accidental PRO or communications people. So when you said what you studied, I laugh because I'm practicing a field where I read what is not by any chance related to what I do. I once said it on this platform and other platforms. I have a BSc. My first degree was in geography and regional planning. So what am I planning? What are we regionalizing in communication and PR? So that was why you can relate why I was laughing at your teach then. So that is it. So a lot of similarities. My career journey also, I also rooted to Olaotan, where some of the experiences he shared from his speech. And that is, in my career journey, I've happened to rise from the position of just an online writer, writing for a marketing magazine, which was a blog, writing for them just after NYC. I started from there, but I saw along the line of what I studied and what I do, I've always had a flair for content creation, writing, and speech delivery. I always had a flair for all that. And I tell you that one of my first focus career path was to go into lecturing after school, get opportunity to lecture where you deliver, you impart knowledge. That has been a passion for me. And of course, that has to do with a lot of research, writing of thesis and all that. So it's not accidental that I now find myself here after reading geography and all that. So while I started along the line, I have been fortunate to work in the journalism. I've been fortunate from journalism. I moved straight to PRO, where I joined an agency that was chiefly managing 7-Up and its brand, the Pepsis, the Aquafina. I was there the time Aquafina was launched, and it became a premium bottled water. The idea was it will start from to position as a premium bottled water in Nigeria, and that is where it is today. We're there driving social campaigns for Pepsi, the music trend, the football academies, all that. I was behind the scene. Then from there, I moved on to an organization called CNF Portal Novelli in Lekki, and there, that's where I come in. Olaotan, you might relate. CNF was the PRO agency for Conga at the time. and I was the chief account officer of that account at CNA Portal Novelli. So that's why I was just laughing when I was talking, because perhaps in one or two meetings back then, way back 2016, 2017, we must have been on the same table, but we won't know each other today, except for this kind of avenue. So I handled when the e-commerce trend came to Nigeria, I was strongly behind the team that was pushing Konga as one of the leading e-commerce brand in Nigeria. Place your order. We built trust for the platform that, look, at the time, it was the time Nigerians were struggling on e-commerce. If I shop online, will they deliver what I've shopped? If I shop online, will I get what I've ordered? But value for money, we were pushing all this from the PRO angle using marketing tactics. So those are part of the success story. Then I move on and on. I work for other international brands like HP, Hewlett Packard. I remember there was a year when we had this crisis of counterfeit products in West African market. So I was in that trade that organized the West African conference for a campaign against anti-counterfeit products. Guess what? That was a huge campaign in West Africa for us to position HP as an authentic brand and as a genuine brand, then we onboarded distributors to help them identify the fake from the original. That was a huge campaign, and I take pride that it was successful from the global team when they gave us their feedback. From there, I was fortunate to also move to another agency where they were calling into advertising and outdoor. Ask me, what would a PR person be doing in an advertising agency again? So that is where I also was able to garner some experience in advertising, overall marketing, marcoms in terms of advertising, outdoor branding, and all that. Also come with event management. You know, Nigerian Power Station is one of the biggest sectorial bodies in our system. We created a niche, a strong. We made their conference. When I worked there, we made their conference, the annual Nigerian Power Station annual conference, to become what it is today. I was part of that team that repositioned it to become a global conference annually that people look forward to across the globe. And from there, we moved on to where I am today. Nosak joined the team, and we started with responsibility to build a team from the scratch, a department from the scratch, a department that was not really there, well, built it from the scratch. And today, the idea of perception management, image management has always been a thing I enjoy, and that is what we are doing successfully at Nosak Group, where I head the communications team, but also which gives me an edge to oversee a part of the marketing activity because of the overall experience I've garnered from marketing communications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for taking us through that. Appreciate the time spent and really breaking it down, helping us understand what the inside joke was earlier. But now I guess everyone is up to speed on that. Kenneth also studied something that was unorthodox. Bringing him into PR was him basically just following a passion that he had. So please, let's hear from Maya, a quick rundown on your career journey so far, where you currently are.
Hello, everyone. Very pleased to join you again. I think a couple of years back, I was in one of the previous editions of Evaluate the PR event series, and P+ measurement have been friends in the AMEC world for quite some time. I was actually one of the panelists on the P+ measurements entry interview into the AMEC organization. So really appreciate this camaraderie that we have in the industry in PR measurement and evaluation. So I'm Maya, and you almost nailed the family name. It's Koleva. I am originally Bulgarian, and I am physically based most of the time in Bulgaria. That's in the Balkans, in Southeastern Europe. I work for Commetric. This is a British company, so you probably would find me in some London PR events if you end up going there as well. So I keep on. I work a lot with clients globally, mostly in Europe and North America. But in the past years, I've had the privilege to work also with a lot of clients from Asia Pacific and including from Africa. So it's been really a great journey to work with so many super interesting and exciting brands. So what I do, I'm a researcher. So I don't do the hard stuff. I don't do the actual communications. I don't do the PR. What I do is I help clients evaluate whether their PR efforts are hitting the right tone, whether they're moving into the right direction, how they are performing against their competitors, and how they're managed to land their messaging either in media or in other audiences on social media. I work a lot in integrated communications measurement programs. So this doesn't necessarily mean only the PR side of communications, but also a lot of social media and brand and marketing communications, trying to help clients really understand the holistic picture of their external communication efforts and how they are resulting in improved organizational impact. And where I come from, interestingly, from my co-panelists, I heard some keywords that really resonate with my own personal career journey. So I graduated journalism. I used to work as a journalist. I was an international news editor in one of the back then largest daily newspaper in my home country. I really loved this job, but I figured actually that the pace and the stress of the newsroom is really not what suits me. I want to dive deep. I want to be very research oriented. And in the newsroom, you often have to just scratch the surface because it's really so much going on in the world. And especially if you're in international news, there's just so much happening and you can't really dive deep. So I went on to study policy and regulation with a focus on media regulation and media markets and media policy globally, including internet regulation, which was really nascent in that stage. It was back in 2008, 2009, when a lot of the conversations around how we manage online spaces, what, if anything, we could do to regulate social media is possible. So it was really a more kind of Wild West of policy and regulation in that space. But it was definitely an interesting area and helped me also learn a lot about the differences in media regulation and different media systems globally. And we come from so many different places. And in my program, we were a very multinational, international community with my peers from the master's program coming from all over the world. Actually, some of my closest friends were from Nigeria. So it's been really interesting to hear the different perspectives from the different markets and the different media systems. And I ended up in the media intelligence space shortly after I finished my my master's studies, and it was, I would say, by accident. I never knew this area even existed. I never knew that there is a whole industry devoted to corporate media research for the purposes of measuring communications and public relations. So I really thrived in this space. I joined as a junior analyst, and I worked my way up into the organization, into client-facing roles, and my current role, which is now a very interesting cross-functional bridging role. I work a lot with our technology teams to onboard artificial intelligence, large language models in our research processes. I work closely with clients to consult them on measurement frameworks. And it's really probably one of my favorite parts of my role is this industry outreach and industry partnerships that we do as part of AMEC. So very pleased to be here with you today.
Thank you so very much, Maya, for making our time to be here with us. I'm sure there's a lot that we can pick from the three of you. Extensive experience, a career journey that makes me feel somehow, but I'm glad I'm the moderator and I don't have to pitch in on today's event. So I'm just going to do my best to moderate it as well as possible. We've all heard from our guests today, and I think we can all agree that they have expertise that span industries, markets, as well as global events and challenges. And they are here to offer us unique perspectives on how PR strategies must evolve to respond to certain dynamics or shifts that we might come across in today's world. And today's discussion isn't just about trends. We hope to focus on actionable insights. How do we future-proof PR in an unpredictable world? How do we come up with strategies so brands can stay credible, reliable, and influential amidst economic as well as political shifts that they might encounter? So with that being said, let's dive into today's event. So to break the ice, I think we want to start with a real world experience, something that happened to you in that space. So I'll call on Olaotan to take us through this. Can you recall a global event or market shifts that completely changed how you as a professional approaches PR strategies? You're muted, Olaotan.
Sorry, forgive me. Yes, sorry. I mean, without even thinking about it, I think it's the COVID-19 pandemic. That was a global thing. It was a global event that changed everything. I remember, in fact, I was speaking about it yesterday to a colleague. When that happened, I was in my house for 47 days. I didn't step out of my house for 47 days. Yes, 47. It was not funny. And then we were working. We were still. I remember I was with. I was the account. To the bank, you couldn't get cash, so it was really tough. And at that point, we just with the different stakeholders, and it is most important that you're saying the right things to them, and that was it. The pandemic kind of changed everything, changed consumer expectations, changed the way we communicate, changed the way we see digital. It even gave us, a reason to be crisis ready, because nobody expected it, and it just came on all of us like that. So it told us that, look, be ready, because anything can happen at any time. So as a PR person, if you're handling a brand, whether have like a template, have a playbook that you can work with at any. It did was the fact that it shifted our approach to communications, rather than the consumer. So we were looking at what are going through. They want to feel loved. They want to feel heard. They want to feel catered for. They just don't want you to come and load them with lots of information about your products. They want to know that you understand what they are going through, and you're offering solutions that can make them better. And one of the things that we did then was to even launch an app that would help them to do that global event brought. Oh. Can you still hear me?
I was wondering if it was my network or yours. So just to confirm, Kenneth, were you hearing what he was saying?
Yes, I heard, but with some scratches due to network.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Olaotan, I think You can continue though.
I think his network is lagging. Maybe he should restart.
Okay. I guess that's okay. So while we wait for Olaotan, let's just push the conversation a little bit further. Kenneth, since we are in that space and talking about personal experiences in the professional field, from your experiences, how do political and economic uncertainties influence how brand messaging and media strategies change or go?
All right, thank you, Stanley. Yes, I think Olaotan is back. We lost you at the point, but we had some of your points. So, rooting from where Olaotan stopped, I would say that I also go way back and say media communication, PR strategies, media strategies, all witness a transformational change, perception change, consumer expectation change from the month COVID struck the world globally. That was when there became a drastic and strategic shift, and it was a period where we tested the world tested the impact and relevance of communications experts. If I go back memory lane, generally for us in Africa, Nigeria, precisely for Maya, who is away, and they have been more nimble in terms of global technologies. Way back when social media just became the trend, the in thing in communication, in PR, we were practically told then, some of us were still just rising in our career. We were told that if we don't evolve, if we don't embrace PR, social media, it will erode us away from our career as PR professional. Because back then, PR was more traditional than digital as of then. So we had to start building ourselves, buying into social media strategies to get to where we are today. Coming down, how political economic uncertainties affect brand message and media strategies it can happen drastically, just like what they call, I rate it to what they call a natural disaster. Nobody expects a natural disaster to happen, either an earthquake, whirlwind, cyclones, or tsunamis. Nobody expects them to happen. But when they strike, when they happen, the onus lies on the brand expert, communication expert. What do we do from there? What do we communicate? At that point in time, you can't be communicating the quality or the value your product brings to the market or brings to the people. You need to now shift your communication strategy from a point of just creating awareness, positioning its value to a state of empathy, showing empathy. Having this, you need to now embrace emotional intelligence, imbibe emotional intelligence, and listen to what consumers want, what they are interested to listen to at that point in time. Somebody is affected by a tsunami, and you come to say, buy my shoe, sorry, I might mention some brand, buy my shoe brand is the best, buy it. It's in a period of tsunami. Where will you wear it to? Are you expected to wear that shoe, that gorgeous, expensive shoe, and be walking in the waters? Obviously, no. So at that point in time, buying a shoe doesn't matter to the consumer. What matters to them is how to save their shelter, how to shape their abode and restore their families to sanity. That's what matters. So, like Stanley, like Olaotan was saying, it's a time that in communication, most often brands don't have a crisis communication plan. Most often, half the time, it is when the crisis hit that will not be to run helter-skelter, having emergency strategy session to create a crisis communication plan or strategy. Just last week, we were in a session in my organization, and we're talking about you need to have like 10 crisis communication strategies, not just one. And having a policy, crisis communication policy, at some point may not hold water anymore because crises come in different dynamics. They come with different metrics. So if you say your crisis communication policy is A, when it happens, you must do this. B, you must take it this way. The peculiarity of that crisis might be different from the time the policy was created, the crisis that emanated, that resulted to the generation of that policy might not be relevant to the crisis at hand. So you need to have different crisis communication policies to suit different occurrences. That is on one hand. So how this happens, that when these things happen, what should brand do? How should their messaging go? What should their messaging be? I will say that 3 areas I will concentrate on is brands, communication expert needs to be emotionally aware. They need to be emotionally aware of what is the audience, what are they saying, what matters to them at this point in time in your messaging. I give an instance. Some years back, just after COVID struck and there was a lockdown, then we gradually, by August, September that year, the lockdown was eased off. June, July, it was eased off. Businesses became physical again a bit. Just after then, in Nigeria, I think a year after, thereabout, we had this NSAS protests against bad governance and the call for good governance. When that happened, we all know how the thing is. We know how it went eventually. When that happened, a lot of brands, I give an experience, a practical experience. For us, as the head of the team, we had to put a hold to all our social media content engagement. At that point in time, what are we selling? We are selling products that, at that point, do they really matter to the people? People were killed incidentally due to the protests. Families were rendered homeless, useless. Properties were destroyed, both government and private. People were affected drastically, adversely. So your messaging of I'm selling this, I'm selling that, may not matter again. So what happened? And we saw it by brands were getting hit on social media. When you come and begin to tell people what you are doing, you see comments, you see thousands of comments, hundreds of comments to say this brand is not, this organization, corporate organization is not sensitive to the trend. They are not sensitive to what is happening. They are not showing empathy. They are not showing the sympathizing with the people. At that point in time, for us to avoid that backlash, we retracted all our content communication for 3 months. I'm giving you a live experience. 3 months, we didn't post anything on social media because what we said may not be relevant at that period. So it was when things started taking shape, we were getting back to normal, and mind shift was changing. Then we now started talking softly. Maybe our content frequency became twice a week, as again 5 times a week. So we understood. So in times of economic, political, even natural unrest, brands must be very, very sensitive. It's not the brand that should be sensitive. It is you, the brand handler, the communication expert, the PR personality. It is your decision to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and in what parameters and metrics to say it. Of course, we must also be very sensitive to, let me bring it, it's very particular to our client, ethnic bias and religious bias. In your messaging, at such point, you need to understand that if I say this, will these people, will it sit well with them? If I say this, will it sit well with these people? So overall, the content manager, the brand expert, the PR expert must show an in-depth understanding of perception and trend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for the in-depth analysis, even stating real-time events to further buttress his point. And in his conversation, I think one thing that I personally picked out was the need for PR professionals to adopt the adaptability in their work processes. And when certain crises or shifts occur, it tells on how professional you are, the amount or the level at which you are able to adapt to these changes, and how you should put empathy at the base of your PR approach, because I think sometimes, or most times, the most important elements to a campaign, especially for brands, is their consumers. And so if the consumers are being neglected in your PR approach, I don't think that's the proper PR approach for a PR professional or an agency. So quickly, welcome back, Olaotan. Sorry that you had to leave us.
Yeah, thank you. My network
conversation.
yeah. but
Yeah.
I'm back.
So quickly, if you could just pick up from where you left off, and
Yeah, I think Kenneth did justice to it. I mean, he kind of filled in the gaps for me. I mentioned before I went off that the COVID-19 pandemic was the biggest event for me as far as I'm concerned. That changed everything, right? Just so I don't rehash what Kenneth has said. One that I would love to add is the fact that this same event brought in a lot of awareness on our own part as communications experts to misinformation and how it can damage your brand. What it then did for us is to understand that the consumers have power in their hands. They have their mobile phones and they have the internet. So when they have experiences, whether it is true, so somebody can just wake up and feel like, oh, I don't like that brand. I don't like them for whatever reason. Maybe the person likes another brand over your own, likes competition over your own, and feels like no matter what you do, no matter what you put on social media, they just want to say bad things about you. And they want to say, oh, don't mind that brand. That was how they did XYZ last year and all that. That I mean, from your perspective, that may not be how it happened. But then the consumer wanted to put out an information from their own perspective, from how they feel about your product. So going back to the pandemic, to COVID-19, right? A lot of information, misinformation came during that period. People were locked down, they were in their houses, they couldn't go out. Whatever they see on the internet was what they would believe. It then taught us, it taught us, beg your pardon, as communications experts, to be prepared to control the narrative. You know what your brand is about. You know what you offer. You know the values. You know your core values. You know how you feel about the customers. You know what your essence, your brand essence is. Before somebody tells your story for you, I think you better tell it yourself the right way. So if you pull back, so what it taught us at that time was that if you pull back and you're not, we've established the fact that you have to be empathetic in communications and everything, so you're not just hardcore selling. Aside that, you're also supposed to tell your own story and tell it the right way. There's a way you can tell your story without sounding like you're hardcore selling. You can tell your story from the CSR point of view, from the social impact point of view, where you are talking about how you're passionate about your customers, how you're passionate about the environment. We all know that sustainability is the in thing now, and there's no way anybody's running away from it. So as a brand, if you're plugging into sustainability, if you're plugging into environmental friendliness, you have to be telling that story and you have to be telling it the right way. Otherwise, somebody who doesn't really like your brand will jump online and tell it for you. And then we now run into that crisis. And then if we don't have that crisis communication plan, we now start jumping up and down and looking for, oh, what do we do? We're in crisis. However, if we have consistently over time told our own stories the right way, the way we want the people to know about it, then whatever is coming will be like a drop of oil in an ocean. It wouldn't make so much impact. So that's one other thing I wanted to add to the fact that the pandemic changed the way we communicate. It also brought us that awareness that be ready to tell your own story and tell it early enough. Be ready to control the narrative. Be ready to speak first. You know, they say this thing that when two siblings are arguing, the first person to go and report stands the bigger chance of being the right person. So as a brand, please be the first person to report yourself to the customers before somebody else who doesn't like your brand do that. That was one other thing that the COVID-19 pandemic taught us as communications experts. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Olaotan, for that. So in addition to adaptability, be prepared. I think that's the conversation Olaotan was trying to purchase. Controlling the narrative from the start to finish helps brands stay in front of the story, stay ahead of the narrative, control the narrative, and also prevent any sort of crisis that might blindside them in the long run. Thank you very much, Olaotan, for sharing that with us. So quickly, we'll move on to Maya. In one word, if you could sum it up, what is the biggest challenge you think adapting PR measurements is in today's fast-changing global landscape?
I love it how you pose the question to something so complicated and big to be put in one word. So if I have to choose one word, I guess my word would be context. And if I could expand on this, basically without context, any data can be misleading. It might be great, amazing data that works elsewhere, but it doesn't work there. So because if you lack the context, you really cannot understand where the data is leading you. So understanding what's driving sentiment, for instance, whether it's cultural, political, or economic, is more important than ever, especially in such a fast-changing global landscape. We are so interconnected, and political news in the other side of the world may affect us in our local markets, and may affect our brand, and may affect our customers. So it is important to understand both the external context, but also how this impacts in your internal market, in your target audience. And I think having this really nuanced view of the relevant context is now the biggest challenge, and definitely some appear to do this better than others. You can probably think of many examples of brands that might do something in one market, but it would sound tone deaf in a different market. And understanding really the context and how to use it to make your communication more relevant, but also to make the data that you use to evaluate whether this communication works is super critical.
Thank you very much, Maya. Well, you did justice to it, putting it in one word. I think we agree that context, yes, it is very important. Whatever can play within the Nigerian space might seem tone deaf in a different space, in a different sphere. And I think that speaks on the importance of really being aware of the situation, and why today's conversation really stands out as something PR professionals should put at the top of their list in terms of understanding how these shifts can affect your work as a PR professional. All right, so thank you very much. I think as experts, you have eased us into today's conversation. I think I've gained knowledge enough, but we're still going to tap into that ever buoyancy of knowledge. We'll go into a bit more general conversation on the topic. So while I have you on that, Maya, I think as a PR professional, how do you think we could effectively measure impact crisis, controlling the narratives in economic downturns as well as political instabilities to maintain brand stability? What would you say as a PR professional?
Well, we have to start by setting the clear baselines. So you can't start measuring when a crisis hits. You have to have the processes in place to measure and collect data before a crisis in kind of a normal scenario. So start by setting a clear baseline. So you need to know where your brand stands before a crisis hits. And then you can use measurement and media monitoring and media intelligence more broadly, social media listening, to track shifts in sentiment, shifts in message pull-through, and consumer reactions. And also track, are there any massive changes and spikes in volume, in buzz of conversations? In any case, you need to combine quantitative metrics that tell you that there is something abnormal, things like share of voice or engagement. But you have to combine them with qualitative analysis to really understand why narratives are shifting. And you definitely have to listen to both media and social channels so that you can have fuller pictures, especially during more volatile periods. Obviously, doing proper primary research is not so straightforward because it's much more time-consuming, intensive, and expensive. But there are many other ways to try to seek your stakeholders' opinions in more real time, including using proxies like social listening. But whenever you have the tools to ask your key stakeholders, just do it.
Thank you very much, Maya. So in understanding what you're saying, it says you should set clear barriers for whatever encounter you might be facing or you might project. It's not enough to start measuring at the point of impact, but you should already have collected data beforehand. You spoke about social listening, understanding the sentiment during and as well as after the campaign, just so you could stay abreast on the situation going on. Olaotan, I don't know if I still have you here with us.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's just build on what Maya said earlier. So what are the risks you think exist when applying global PR metrics without considering shifting geopolitical or economic conditions?
The risks are numerous, actually. Just like Maya explained when she was talking about context. One of the things that we don't pay astute attention to as communications experts is the fact that one size doesn't fit all. That's the truth. That's why there's need for audience segmentation in the first place. It is not every product that will appeal to everyone. It is not every slant or every message or messaging that will appeal to everyone. Whether you're playing globally or locally, it is important to deep dive into the markets that you're trying to explore. Do a little bit of feelers, understand that market, understand the people, understand the peculiarities of that market, of the consumer, why they do what they do, why they do it, when they do it, where they do it. A little bit of insight into these things will help you to not cast your bread on the wrong waters. Okay, so if we understand the nuances of different society, different markets, it helps us to tailor our messaging, tailor our approach in such a way that, one, we're saving time, we're saving cost, and we're not upsetting anyone. Oh, recently I had a trip to China, and we had another group from Pakistan coming, and it was very clear. I mean, immediately we got in, the first question they asked us was, "Oh, what are your do's and don'ts?" Because we're coming from two different areas, two different countries. What do you run away from? What do you like? What don't you like? So that they are better prepared and they are not offering you what is your taboo, in your country. And that's how we should approach communications, public relations and communications, such that with whatever market we're jumping into, we're diving into, we have the knowledge. If something works here, and for all you care, Nigeria is a very unique market. I've studied a few markets across Africa, Asia, especially, and a little bit of Europe. Nigeria is very unique. You could try a certain approach in other countries and it flies. Once you enter the borders of Nigeria, it's a different conversation entirely. The approach, the sentiments, everything is just different. And so if you bring a playbook from another continent or you're bringing it into Africa or you're bringing it into Nigeria, the first few months you realize that nothing is working. Why? Because the nuances here are completely different. So what I would say to anyone who who is passionate about speaking to their audiences and saying the right things, I would say that it is very crucial that no matter the level of, no matter the depth, do a little bit of on this research to make you understand that market, to make you understand the audience, to make you understand the environment, the society, the community. You know, the funny thing about Nigeria, what makes Africa a little bit different from the other part of the world is community engagement. You hardly can survive any campaign in Nigeria if you're not paying attention to community engagement. If you're not doing that, it's tough because of the uniqueness of our society. So that's what I would say, that please, let's run away from the one-size-fits-all approach. I did it here, it was successful, let's just launch it here. No, it doesn't work like that. Let's take a few steps back and ask questions like, what's the uniqueness about this new market? Who are they? What do they stand for? And all of those questions. When we get those insights, then let's take steps. Let's communicate. Let's give out the messages based on the insights that we have, not based on the fact that, well, we have tried it in one market or another market and it worked out.
Thank you very much, Olaotan, for handling that question perfectly. From what he says, extensive survey. It's not enough to have the data, but how do you use that data? What's the importance of the data? How do you translate the data to whatever space you're playing in? It is not enough to say that I've had success with this before, but I'm playing in a different market. How do I shift my perspective? How do I make sure that I am actually communicating with the people, with the target audience? Because that's the point of PR. That's the point of effective PR. Thank you so very much, Olaotan. So Kenneth, in 2025, we're looking at a range of things to look forward to, unexpected events. So what is one major economic or political, probably even technological trend in PR that PR professionals should start preparing for?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Stanley. And nice listening to Maya and Olaotan on the risk associated with using one client strategy in another client. Just to add before I move on, I'd like to put this in my mind, and that is, and he said it at the end of his response, communication expert must understand communications regulation in every geopolitical zone or region they visit. In Nigeria, you will agree with me that what a company can deploy for a Lagos audience, for a West audience in the West, it will not be the same. You cannot apply that when you go up the northern part of the country. So regulatory guidelines must be considered so that you don't end up creating a crisis for yourself and the organization. That being said, so looking at one trend, economic, political, technology that PR professionals should start preparing for in the year 2025, which we're already in. Q1 is ending in a few days from now. Q1 is ending. One trend that I would say, which is the growing impact of artificial intelligence. This is, if I don't say this, I am very sure that Maya and Olaotan will ask me, who is this? But let me borrow their brain to say that, and I'm sure they will agree with me that one trend we must, I use the word must, if we want to expand our horizon as communication expert, as what we call evaluation expert, as PR expert, is the place of artificial intelligence, AI, must be put into our conversation. I mentioned in my last speech that time that when some years ago, when social media became a rave in communication, they said the traditional media, the TVs, the radios, the newspaper, they will die. They will fizzle out. A lot was said. At that point, if you agree with me, if you practice PRO, say way back 2010 down to 2020, 2015, 2016, 2015 precisely in Nigeria, if you don't sit up, you'll be afraid of your work. Let me go the street way now. This I not going to get job again. So that was Maya, what I've said in our local pidgin here is this how I will lose my job? So that is because the social media became a rave that threatened our work. They say in the past, they say, okay, organization, you are consulting for a client, a business. They know that, okay, what you raise to a press release, feature articles, interviews, and all that. But social media came that people could have news on the go. But when all this happened, when all that came into place, we have to take some steps back to see that for somebody like me, I know I invested some of my small earnings into digital and social media marketing. I needed to go and learn it because we've been told physically in the office, if you don't evolve, you will be kicked out of the way because of the new trend at that time. So now in 2025, the trend in communication, but there is a caveat which I always tell friends and junior ones. If you are a PR person, you want to be a good content creator, a writer, please do not use AI tools for writing. You may not learn properly. You may not be original in your creation and your context of communication, but using them as a backup to stand, to review, to pick on two things is ideal. But if you are not yet, I tell growing ones in communication, don't just go to ChatGPT and type, and it will give you everything you want. At that point in time, you are not helping yourself. If tomorrow ChatGPT is not there, they call you outside where you don't have access to your gadget, that person may not be able to defend his or her career or what in the organization because he's not in his comfort zone or her comfort zone where he can quickly use AI to create what he wants to do. So one trend we must watch out for is artificial intelligence, and I put a note down which I said that that AI-driven tools for media monitoring, personalized content creation, and audience engagement will continue to evolve. What we have currently is not the end. More will come. More will be bettered. More people are already in the Silicon Valley. People are already there thinking, what can we invent? If you look at your current apps, present apps that you are used to on a daily basis, every day you see update, and once you update, you see new features. You begin to wonder, so is it that these people are not sleeping? Yes, they are not sleeping. So one trend we must look out for is the evolution that AI will bring into communication space, and we all as experts, we must adapt to this new technology because it is the way to go. If you don't embrace AI for data analysis, you are your own. I must say this. Permit me to say that. You must embrace AI for data analysis, for automation, for audience targeting, which we are doing already. We're doing it somehow from social listening, Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics. We have been using all this, but more tools are coming that are even making it more seamless than ever before. So one key trend for that is coming on board now, which is already here with us, both economically, politically, and otherwise, for professionals to look out for in this year and beyond, is the growing impact of artificial intelligence in what we do in our space and in other categories of career paths. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Yes, AI, the big bad. And from your conversation, you spoke about how PR professionals and agencies should not be 100% dependent on AI, but also find ways to inculcate them in their structure as well, because it's a trend and we cannot deny the usefulness of AI. And I think, like you said, you would be kicked out if you choose to stay ignorant to its importance. Thank you very much for that. So while on the conversation of major global events, Maya, playing in the international space, events such as elections, financial crisis, wars, we all know that these things can reshape public perception overnight. So how can media intelligence support PR teams in navigating these shifts?
So there are currently a lot of solutions for communication teams to set up predictive monitoring, risk alerting. And this is not necessarily something that has to cost a fortune. It has to just be done smartly. You, more than anyone, know your client and your industry, and you know which are you can map out the external risks that are worth tracking on a continuous basis. So work with your vendors, regardless whether you're subscribed to a self-service monitoring platform, or you have a provider that sends you out newsletters and clipping reports, or you do some of those things in-house. Think of how you can track for major shaping narratives and news stories. You can, in most scenarios, I can't see why a wise comms team would only be monitoring and tracking what's happening to them and their own brand, or even only to them and their direct competitors. Think about all of the wider industry and wider topics that really affect you. Think about if you are doing anything at all that requires cross-border trade. Of course, you have to closely be monitoring every major development that is around imposing new tariffs. Now with the new US administration talking so much about tariffs. It really is key to understand the wider perspectives and the wider risk beyond things that affect you directly, beyond your own immediate supply chain, beyond your own immediate local market regulation. There's so much going on in the world, and this is how AI can be so helpful, because AI tools well built into media intelligence platforms, they can really help you identify risky narratives and up and coming issues that might affect your industry or your brand. So do the research to identify the best partners that would be most adequately suited to help you, your company, and your wider use case and communication needs. Only if you have this preparedness, this information, this kind of predictive element, you are able to be proactive rather than reactive in your crisis comms preparedness. Many comms teams would have a crisis comms plan that is ready, kind of sitting somewhere on the shelf, and if there is a crisis, they can just follow the procedures. But that is not the reality of today. A crisis comms plan sitting somewhere on a shelf is not what you need to be prepared for crisis. You really need to be well equipped with the predictive component. So this is why it's so critical to set up your media intelligence in a way that would support you and help you make faster, smarter decisions.
Right. Thank you so very much, Maya. Industry analysis, staying well within the trend, understanding the shifts within the space you play. It is not enough to focus on your niche, or you need to be an all-round player to be prepared, like we've been saying, for certain shifts or situations that might come out of the blue. Thank you so very much, Maya, for taking us through that. I want to go into a real life experience, an example that Olaotan, you yourself personally have encountered in PR. Just share with us a real life example of a PR campaign that had to quickly adapt to an unexpected global event, and what were the key components that made it a success?
Thank you very much, Stanley. I think on top of my head now, I would, I spoke earlier about me being an account manager working on a financial institution during that time when COVID happened. And it was clear that if you were a bank or you're a financial institution at that time and your digital platforms were not top notch, then it was a big deal. I think everybody in Nigeria would remember what we went through at that time to be able to make payments or buy stuff online and get it delivered to our homes and things like that. So at that time, I was account manager on the Stamic IBTC brand, and because of the fast demand for payments, digital access to digital capabilities, the organization upgraded their app, and included more modules to what was currently existing. And of course, at that point, we had to beef up the app to make sure that it was meeting the people's needs. And we wanted to launch, and then there was COVID. We couldn't do a physical launch, yet it had to be big so that everyone knew that the app was launching. And yeah, I remember that what we then had to do was to connect differently at different locations. We had to work with the host, and we worked with the CE of the organization at that time. We worked, if he was in his own apartment, because we couldn't go to his place physically to have the launch. We wanted to interview him and have him speak about the new introduction. We couldn't go to his place because of COVID. He couldn't come to the office because of COVID. We couldn't see the host because of COVID. And we spent weeks, brainstorming with the internal brand and marketing team on the client side, with our team on the agency side. We spent weeks brainstorming on how we would do this and make it big. Eventually, we had to do a virtual launch, which was more like the first at that time, because what we were used to was physical launch, where you go to an event and somebody launches, an organization launches a product. But then we had to pull up that virtual event, launching the app. The CE spoke. We had to bring one of the influencers as the host. I was physically with the host, but the CE was in another location, and we pulled it off. We streamed on different platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. We got people joining in. The event was successful, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, the adoption which we wanted to achieve was achieved. But then it gave us, right now, what we are doing right now is a fallout of COVID-19. Sitting in front of our computers, having evaluate PR 28th edition is a fallout of COVID-19. Yeah, and it started from then, where we had to launch the app, and it was successful until now. The app is doing well. So what it did to us, like I said earlier, was to change our perspective. That was a real life experience for me. It was also a time when influencer marketing was beginning to be popular in Nigeria, where that, there are people who have large following, and then you can reach out to them to help you talk about your brand and drive that awareness for your brand. So here we are. Like someone said, we can't run away from what the pandemic has done. We are here, and like Kenneth said, it will keep getting. This is not the end of what we can do in terms of the new normal. AI has been introduced. At that time there was no AI. We only had technology and stuff. Now AI is here. It's getting better. It's helping us to be more precise, to tell a more grounded and more rounded story, different from what we would tell in the past. So yeah, that's the real life experience for me, and it changed the way I see things. We don't have to all be in the same room to achieve what we want to achieve. And like Kenneth said, I think it will get better from here.
Right, thank you very much, Olaotan. So a real world experience that he's been able to share with us. And well, everyone had some level of experience with the COVID. You personally dealing with being in charge of how the app was being launched. That means you were an integral part in the process, and having a shift like that just come out of nowhere. I think that spoke on your adaptability as a professional, as well as your tenacity and how you could better innovate to make sure that this thing was a success. And well, it was a success. Thank you very much for sharing that. While we're still talking about being directly involved, Kenneth, you're the head manager corporate communications at Nosak Group. So for a brand like that, or for a company like that, when this economic or political instabilities hit, what's the best way for these companies to protect or adapt their corporate messaging? You're muted, Kenneth.
Okay, so I'll pick it from where Olaotan stopped. That look, 2 or 3 things I'll say here. For companies to keep up in times like that with global trends and both local and global trends, there is need for a proper mind shift or resetting, both managing internal communication and engagement with internal audience and the local and the external audience. This is very, very key. That engagement, we must not lose focus, must not lose an eye in keeping the engagement going, irrespective of the challenges, whether political, whether economical, or natural disasters. I will put that because it could happen, and when it happens, you must be readily available. So, from real life experience, one of the things, 2 things I want to mention here was, which I personally engage in, especially when it comes to, by my role, I'm saddled with responsibility to keep both internal audience going, effectively engage, and external audience effectively engage with communication messaging. As I take us back to the COVID era, when that thing happened, it was beginning to look like we're losing. Of course, before then, our organization here, we were very strategic and deliberate way back 2019 to digitalize our operations and processes. We didn't know. It was like we foresaw the future in another 12 months' time. We digitalized all our processes. We shifted away from manual operations, manual processes across departments, across factory manufacturing, across sales, channels, and all that. We adopted a digital process. And of course, adopting that process, these are human beings. You need a mind shift from the usual to a new reality, which they are not used to. There are people that have sat on a particular space for over 5 years and they are used to one routine, and now you are telling them to change the routine, and they are looking at that if I change it, it's complex. They are not used to being on the system 24/7, mobile gadget 24/7. So we revolutionize the system with digital transformation, and just before 12 months, within 6-7 months, COVID struck. Nobody could go to work physically. Nobody could step out. Olaotan said he was at home for over 40-something days. He didn't step out of his house. Ditto for a number of us globally. Nobody moved. The highest you do from your doorstep, you just take a walk within your compound and go back because you were afraid of what will happen outside. That happened. So I now created a strategy in my department that how do we ensure that our employees are still intact, that we are still keeping in touch with employees. I can't remember the month precisely. World Dance Day. If you go to United Nations calendar, you know there are different dates to celebrate different things. Maybe in future there will be World PR Evaluate Day. Never can tell. It could happen. So there was a particular day, World Dance Day. I saw it. Then in Nigeria there was a trendy music that period. And I look, my team, what do we do? I will propose that I can't remember the song. So we now carried that song, took the song, created an internal strategy and said, everybody listen to this song, dance to it, record yourself in 30 seconds and send to us. So it was a way for us to engage employees that, look, the season, the pandemic is not a time to be depressed, still remain happy. That was the strategy. That let us use a dance engagement to tell our employees that in your space, in your house, just record a 30-second video of yourself dancing to this tune. And that song actually had a dance step. So we needed them to demonstrate that dance step. And that we used that trend to impact them positively and brought out the liveliness in them internally. Then taking this externally, we need to be very strategic and diplomatic in engaging our audience that in times of crisis, there is still something that can give a beacon of light, a beacon of hope. So in one of our operations, like Olaotan and Maya mentioned, sustainability is the key for any organization now. At that point in time, we identified a project. It was a school project. I speak here that school project, during the lockdown season, there were site workers who made that place their home. All through the 8 months, they were on that site. And by the time they finished, the lockdown was eased off. And we went to launch that project with the government of the state, because our operations are across some states in Nigeria. We went to launch that school. We remodeled a dilapidated primary school in a local environment to make it a modern environment with facilities. We engaged the people, and guess what? That brought life in the face of crisis. It brought life to the people. So there are strategic ways that when we're talking about the impact, are areas where we can come in to impact the even in the face of what they call in face of downtime, such as we can be influenced by politics, election, economic indices. There are ways you can still create engagement positively to let the people to take the mind shift of the people away from that negative trend, that thing that is beginning to look like a depression, and give them a new life. And I add again by saying that another way, whereas this personal thing I did with a particular set of people, a group of people, I didn't know them from anywhere, and somebody just called me and said they had developed an app that is meant to revolutionize agribusiness. I'd like to mention that they had to launch an app product virtually. And when I told them, the guy said they've been on this for 2 years, and now they were ready to launch. COVID struck, they are stranded. What do? I just told them, Zoom is there. Let's do a media launch on Zoom. It didn't make sense at first. It didn't make any single sense. And I told them, look, all I will do for you, I'll do this, I'll consult for you. I'll get in touch with influencers in that space, communicators in that space, and we'll fix a date, and we'll launch this product virtually, and it will go across traditional and digital spaces. And that happened. Like I borrowed the words of Olaotan. To the best of my knowledge, I would say that was a successful campaign in the face of economic and geoeconomic and other natural occurrences that were impacting on communication that could have resulted in making communication not to be agile, but that strategy made that product to go live. And today, the other app is being adopted in Africa in the agri-business space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for sharing that with us. I think you emphasized on putting the human element behind your campaign or behind the process, making sure that the company still shows the empathetic side of its efforts and making sure that that resonates with its target audience. Thank you very much. So also to our listeners, please do not feel left out. We'll have the opportunity to throw questions at our guests soon enough after this round of questions. So let's just move into quick fire questions just to get our experiences on the job and how they affected our responses to future eventualities. So Maya, what has been the biggest challenge you faced when measuring PR impacts during uncertain times?
I think one of the biggest challenges for me as a measurement professional is that sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news. And by sometimes, I actually mean quite often. PR and communications professionals usually would go into communication mode, setting some targets for them, setting some KPIs that they want to meet. And if they end up not meeting those targets that they have sometimes arbitrarily set for themselves, they would be very alarmed that they need to prove success. But communications measurement is not about proving success. It's about using data to do better, to be better. So one of my biggest challenges is to convince some of the clients I'm working with that maybe you didn't set the right target. Maybe you should have consulted me first. Maybe you should have not been overly ambitious and over-promising. And then B, the fact that you're not meeting a certain target doesn't mean that you're not doing your job. And this is something that you have to consistently put out as a message to your key internal stakeholders. Communications, especially strategic communication, is not about short-term gain. It's a marathon run. It's not a sprint. And sometimes you might not hit a target immediately, but it doesn't mean you are overall on the wrong path. This is not performance marketing. You can't just, turn it up and down and get results very fast. You don't do A/B testing when you do huge strategic communication campaign. So it's one of the biggest challenges is really making the conversation more humble, more grounded in what is realistic, what is logical, what is human. I think in some cases I'm seeing really good results, like really communicators just taking a step back, saying, yeah, you're right. The target that we set, we didn't even know where it came from. We just arbitrarily thought that 85% message pull through is a great target to have, but we didn't realize that our baseline is 50%. How do you jump from 50 to 85? It usually is not a single jump. It's a process. And these are the type of conversations I'm having, and also to just convince sometimes that you might really want to see certain results, but if the data doesn't really back them, don't be tempted to massage the data and put it in a report that says everything is excellent and everything is flying colors. Just be reasonable, and don't forget to use best practice, international best practice, like the AMEC integrated evaluation framework. Communication and the value of communication is not in a single KPI. It's not in an impression count. And it's not even in the value of your sentiment score. It's about, are your communications contributing to overall business and organizational objectives? And it doesn't mean this necessarily has to translate into sales, although sometimes that really is the goal. Communications don't do the sales. The sale is being done by the quality of the product, the quality of the marketing, the availability, the readiness of the market, and communications. But what you need to make sure is that you tell a convincing story of how communication helps in the process.
Thank you very much, Maya. From what you said, it resonated with me because within our agency as well, we did an in-house training where we broke down smarter PR. And I think an R in the smarter stands for realistic, which is something you mentioned, and setting realistic goals, measurable goals as well. That all PR should not equate to sale. PR is mostly about staying top of mind. And that is the important thing that most people need to worry about. So I understand how that could be a challenge, helping or making your clients understand the differences between what you do as a PR professional, what your goal is, and what they would probably like the goal to be. Thank you very much, Maya, for that. So quickly, Olaotan, if you will, where do you see the biggest disconnect between global PR strategies and local execution?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry, can you take that again, please? Sorry.
Where do you see the biggest disconnect between global PR strategies and local executions?
Okay, so I think it was something that Maya had mentioned earlier. about context, really, and agility, the ability to adapt, right? Understanding that there are specific, or there are unique nuances to different cultures, different communities, and you're not just doing a one size fits all approach. You have to plan your execution. You plan it well based on the insights that you have. So it's not what you. I think over the years we've done PR in such a way that you tell the people what you want to tell them. But then what I understand that differentiates global approach, global strategies, is the fact that the global approach works from the consumer back. What does the consumer want to hear? What does the consumer need to hear? So PR strategies approaches go in that direction to say that this is what this is coming from the consumer's perspective and not from our perspective as the brand. Being a brand, having so much essence, so much values, you have so much to say, and you're just going all out. You want to dump everything on the consumer at the same time in your own words. And I think over time that hasn't worked at all. That has created a lot of gap between global strategies and local execution. So we just see all of these things play out in the books, and we just take it and then dump it on our people here, which I think should not be the case. So I would say to any brand, if you want to close the gap, you need to understand the local nuances. You need to understand the consumer behavior. You need to understand the media landscape, the terrain where you're operating. One of the first things I figured out in PR is the fact that the way PR is practiced in developed countries is not the way it's practiced here. Here we do so much of forgive me, but here we do so much of numbers. We do so much of how many blogs took the news, how many mentions did it have, how many influencers are talking about that's not how it happens in developed countries. For all they care, if the right audience, the right people who are supposed to hear the story, if they are available and they hear it, that's what's important. And just like Maya perfectly said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not the real. It's not a quick win. And we just need to understand that PR and communications is not, I put in 100 million to do a PR campaign and I must get 1 billion in sales. I shut my eyes to tell anyone that PR comms is not the same as sales. It is not. They are two different things. So we approach PR as PR, and then we approach sales as sales. So what you want to do is to ensure and understand that PR is a long-term thing. It's called subliminal seduction. It's a way of entering into the minds of the customer to know that, to have the right perception about you, about your product, and not necessarily that we just want them to know that we are there and we want them to make sales. So if we understand this perspective about what we do, about our brands, about our product, it helps us to bridge the gap, between global approach and local execution. Again, I said something earlier about community engagement, about your exposure, whether you want to do radio, you want to do traditional media. You have to understand that Africa, Nigeria, we are big on community. So things like town hall meetings, things like approaching leaders of different communities, things like that, it makes the difference, right? It goes a long way, because people here, they respect their leaders, their local leaders. They listen to them, they respect them. So if you want to jump over those people and feel like you can speak directly to those under them, we may not get results. You'll be surprised that a global campaign can make good use of Twitter or LinkedIn and do well. If you bring the same campaign here and use Twitter and LinkedIn, you probably won't get results. maybe your results will be better with Instagram, with WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp groups, and you give the story to different people to post on their WhatsApp groups, or you want to use local influencers or community influencers, that plays a bigger role rather than just reinventing the wheel and just following the same pattern. To make it personal, it was one of the reasons I left construction, because I understood that it was more like doing what someone else has created, rehashing what somebody else has created. So the rules are there. If you want to do this, this is what you do. If you want to do this is what you do. They were so boring, so stoic, and I felt like there was no room for creativity. There was no room to put in my own ingenuity. So that way, I wanted something that I could create, and it will be my intellectual property and will make a lot of difference. And that's the same way we should see PRI communications. So to bridge the gap, we have to look at co-creating, working together, understanding the nuances of our society, working together with local communities, having community engagement, using data-driven approach, and we're not just throwing everything out. I remember back then I got a text to buy a female product, and I'm a male, and I got a text. I was even single, so if I was married, I probably would have bought it for my wife, but I was single. And you know the days of SMS marketing where they just throw the blast out to everybody, but then the blast goes to people who don't even need it. So now it's different. We can use more segmented approach. We can segment the audience. We can use data-driven approach, and we can adapt a more flexible strategy. So what I would say is, for us to achieve tangible results and to bridge the gap between that we currently have between global PR practice and local execution, is to be flexible and understand that you need to play within your locality, within your environment, the society where you're operating.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. I'm sorry, Olaotan. Yes, understanding the space within where you're playing within is a very important thing from what he said. So finally, let's have Kenneth. I want you to, because you're a PR professional, so I know it's part of your superpowers. How do you see global affairs, like we've been talking about all day, reshaping PR measurements over the next 5 years?
All right. Thank you, Stanley. Once again, I think this is quite an insightful session, and I'm picking a lot for myself. So for the question, how do you think global affairs will reshape the next 5 years? I would say, very in simple terms, that the next 5 years, just like when you go for a job interview and they ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I would say the global affairs reshaping the world in the next 5 years. Let's have these points in mind. Elections, global affairs such as elections, economic crisis, technological shifts will likely reshape PR by increasing demand for agile and data-driven strategies. This is very key. Now, in the next 5 years, we will continue to have elections year on year from different countries, and all these countries, they make up the world, the globe, the global affair. So you just imagine the US election that was conducted a few months ago concluded, the new president is sitting in power right from the campaign season. That election, the leading candidate, his perception, his personality was already impacting on global economy. You will agree with me. His personality, his ideologies were already making strong impact on global economies. Organizations were already toning down or retooling their communication strategies. So these things, elections, economic crisis, technological shift, will demand and will make an increasing demand for agile communication and data-driven strategies. This is very, very key, and every communication expert, PR expert must sit down and retool their communication strategy, working with data and analysis. That is key. You must have data. Whatever you want to do, have data to back up your strategy. Then, of course, but in politics, political changes will lead to shifts in regulation, regulatory policies. If we take Nigeria, for example, in this current administration, there has been a number of policies which are shaping the way businesses are operating right now. There are a lot of policies. Some are favorable to businesses, some are not favorable. Then some are also favorable to consumers, and others are not favorable. In all this, in the next 5 years, political change in power from one administration to the other will also have a very, very significant impact in the affairs of impact that will reshape PRO strategies, and organizations should brace up for it. And one of the best ways to brace up for all these dynamic shifts is understanding the trends, understanding the political terrain, understand the economic terrain and indices. You must be very familiar with global economy, familiar with the local economy, as well as with the regional economy. All this awareness, what I'm saying overall is there should be organizations and communication experts who are not just an average PR person should know today that he is not just there for the news, for the engagement, for content. He is there as a business advisor. And today, that is why we need to up our game to a level that in the next 5 years, let it be said that PR experts are the ones sitting as CEOs of organizations. It is easy for a marketing person to emerge and become the MD or CEO. It is easier for a finance person to emerge as the CEO or MD of an organization, but the same cannot be said for a PR expert. So for us to ascend to that role, we must be deliberate to become business advisors, forecast trend politically, economically, be deliberate about numbers. We must be deliberate about numbers. I, for one, I'm not a fan of numbers. I used to not be a fan of numbers. But because of business dynamics, career shift, and growth, I have become interested in numbers. I become interested in applications that deal with numbers because numbers drive the business. It is not your ease was. Your ease and work drives the business, but when the finance people come and tell you that, okay, income, expenditure, bottom line, XYZ, they will be giving more audience than you. So for you to get that audience attention from the board as well, you be interested in the numbers. And to be interested in the numbers, you have to also predict the economic dynamics, predict the political landscape, the shift in the political landscape. Then also I will mention that economic instability, of course, is going to impact on the way communication will shift in the next 5 years. This may push business to focus more on crisis communication and demonstrate resilience. Remember, I mentioned that if you have a policy or a guideline that talks about how crisis should be handled when it occurs, that is no longer tenable in this age and time. Have multiple crisis communication plans, because crisis will come in diverse dimensions. Crisis will come in terms of political affairs, will come in economic inflation. When inflation keeps rising, it's a huge economic impact on the business. You need to be aware of that and be prepared for how to tackle such occurrences, especially with if you're in an organization where purchasing, where you do with manufacturing, products and sales. You must be very interested in the economic dynamics. So organizations in the next 5 years should be very, very prepared to have crisis communication management plan readily available and demonstrate resilience. Don't be swept away with the crisis. Don't be swept away with the impact of these subjects, politics, election, natural ties, and all that. Don't be swept away. Then, of course, how do I think global affairs will reshape? Yes, technology. I've mentioned that. Olaotan Maya has also mentioned that technological advances, especially in AI, artificial intelligence, and automation processes, will impact everything that we do today to a very great extent. It will. To the way we talk, a time will come, maybe I don't need to even talk, I'll just go and put AI there and say, this is the question Stanley will ask me. AI say it when it's time, I play the video for Stanley, I said, Stanley, I'm not available. Or I mute my video and play the voice, play my voice and speaking on my behalf. That is what technology is going to do, or it's already doing, and more of it will happen. So in the next 5 years, technology, with the advent of AI and automation processes, they are going to impact very adversely on business and communication. Then another point that will impact very well in this field is that will also be, when you have this AI technological impact in favor of AI and automation, they will change how PR professionals analyze data, which Maya is sitting here to speak from that angle of evaluation and analysis. So these tools, it's not just going to change, it will revolutionize how PR professionals analyze and evaluate data. Of course, it will also bring about a change in your message dynamics. Your messaging, you need to be bringing the human perspective to your messaging. And like Olaotan said, community engagement is very key. What works in US may not work in your client. That's strategy. Let me add this insight. When I worked in an agency that was consulting for Pepsi, 7-Up and all that, 7-Up bottle company, Pepsi is a global brand. The year they signed off Beyonce, I was there that year. When they signed off Beyonce that year as their brand ambassador, then it was now, the brief was not sent to the local region to say, adapt this. Beyonce is now the global brand ambassador. So in your local environment, I look for somebody in that space and localize this campaign to your space. It came to Nigeria. I was on the table when we were discussing which of the female music artists has the traits, the characteristics of a Beyonce. You all know the story. If you're in Nigeria, you know where the story is today. So we got out, we started reviewing, analyzing, and we got a Tiwa Savage who has that look and feel of a Beyonce, who localized that campaign in a global campaign to Nigeria. So understand your client. It's very, very key. Understand your audience. Who is that person that, if he becomes an influencer, can move the numbers? The idea of influencer is to drive the numbers for the business. And when I say numbers, I mean the bottom line. Increase purchase, increase sales. So that is very, very key in all we do. Understand the business and have that data-driving process ongoing. Then, of course, it will ultimately, before I close from this, I say that ultimately PRO will need more responsive, transparent, and adaptive tools to these global changes. So when these changes are happening, PRO strategies should be tilted to be very responsive, adaptive, and transparent. When you have this theory in place, whatever the trend is, political, economic, technological-wise, your strategy will fit in perfectly. And when it does, trust me, you begin to see communication, messaging, engagement, both internal and external stakeholders, going seamlessly because you are prepared. It's a case of you are prepared for whatever the trend comes, whatever trends comes your way. In any dimension you come, your strategy will always fit in. And of course, we must be very mindful of avoiding copy and paste policy or strategies. You don't take because it worked there, like Olaotan mentioned, because it worked there does not mean it will work here. You can't put a round peg in a square hole. No, they use it in their climb. It was a round hole, and you now carry the round peg and bring it to your own place or your region. And where you have, what do you have? You have what? You have a square hole. So adaptability is key. You can pick it as a benchmark and now go and construct it to a square peg so that it fits into your plan. So in all this, in the next 5 years, what will bring reshape PRO in the next 5 years, like I've said, I recap. Political dynamics, economic dynamics, then the revolution of artificial intelligence and automation of processes. A lot of processes are already becoming automated. Consider e-commerce. A lot is automated there. I close with this. In our system, one of our production arms, recently the ICT and the internal control department, they are strongly, as of today, they are launching a new and an automated production process. The whole of last week was used to test run the process, to onboard the people that will be interfacing with the process. And that was, it was very rigorous. But as it is being launched today, everybody is seeing that this thing is easing the production process for that particular product in our operation. So these are my views on how PRO will shape in the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for sharing that with us. If one thing we can all agree on is today's discussion has reinforced the important truth about PR, and that it is no longer just about messaging. It's more about foresight, adaptability, and strategic influence in the ever-changing world, in the ever-changing landscape. And so as we navigate through these uncertainties, whether economic shifts or technological changes or advancements, the roles of PR professionals has never been more important, as we stand at the forefront of driving trust as well as impact of these messages within that sphere. I'm so sorry we asked for 1 hour 30 minutes of your time, but we've taken a few more minutes of that. So just in light of that, we just have time for one question from the audience. If you have a question, just by show of hands, and who your question is directed at from all insightful conversations we've had today. So if there's anyone with a question listening, please just show of hands and I will. All right. I guess it's safe to say we don't have any questions from our listeners, but definitely I want to extend a very warm and much heartfelt thank you to every one of our guest speakers here today, taking out time to be here to share insights, to share industry experience, professional experience. I want to thank you guys so very much. And to all those who took our time to listen, we've definitely learned something. My notebook is full, and definitely I feel more of a professional right now than I was since before we came into this interview. So I would like to go down the line thanking Maya Koleva for providing us with your time. An hour, 53 minutes. It wasn't what we promised, but thank you so very much for giving us that time of your day. Olaotan, Fawehinmi, thank you so very much for bringing your insights, for bringing your knowledge in the industry here to us to share. Kenneth, it's always nice to have you with us. Your fun storytelling as well as industry insights are always a pleasure. So thank you guys so very much for being a part of today's event. I am Stanley Nwadialo. This is P Plus Measurement Services. And hopefully we can have you guys join us at some other events, somewhere bigger, somewhere better. And I wish you guys the best in your professional endeavors. And thank you and good luck.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Yeah.